Okay, so you want to learn English fast,
Yeah.
right? And you want to do it the right way. We got some cool stuff from you, a video script, and it's like jam-packed with all these different strategies and tips for learning English. And that's what we're diving into today.
Yeah, it is amazing like how much information is out there. But, for us, it's not just about like, repeating all that. It's about understanding how these things actually work. Like how can you make them part of your life?
Right, right. So let's jump right in. This script starts off talking about like this idea of immersion, surrounding yourself with the language.
Yeah.
And one of the first things it mentions is changing your device settings to English,
Right.
which sounds simple enough, right?
Okay.
But what's the impact of doing that day after day?
Well, I mean, it might seem small, but it actually leverages this thing called passive learning.
Okay.
And so think of it this way, like even if you're not like sitting down and, memorizing every single word on your phone, you're still being exposed to it.
Right.
And that repetition, it starts to kind of prime your brain. You start recognizing patterns, and then you see familiar words popping up, and it's all in context. And so your brain is kind of subconsciously starting to process the language.
That makes sense. It's like, when you're first learning to drive,
Yeah.
everything seems crazy.
Right.
But then over time, you start to just kind of anticipate things
Exactly.
without even realizing it.
Yeah. It becomes second nature.
It does. It does. Okay, so the script also talks about watching movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
And it suggests this kind of step-by-step approach. First, you use subtitles in your native language.
Right.
Then you switch to English subtitles.
Okay.
And finally, no subtitles at all.
Yeah.
So tell us more about how that works.
Well, I think that's actually a really smart, like, layered approach, right? So, starting with your native language subtitles, it lets you follow the story. You know what's going on. But at the same time, your ear is getting used to the sounds of English. Okay. The rhythm, everything like that. Then when you move to English subtitles, you're connecting what you're hearing with the written words.
Oh, I see.
And that really helps with vocabulary, with spelling. And then finally, taking away the subtitles completely, it forces you to rely on your listening comprehension skills.
Right. Makes you pay attention.
Exactly. You have to pay attention. You have to think about the context.
Yeah.
And you're using your growing understanding of the language to figure things out. And, the script even suggests shows like, Friends or The Office.
Yeah.
Which is smart because they use a lot of everyday language.
Right. It's not like super formal.
No, exactly. It's how people actually talk to each other.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to be able to do, right?
Yeah. Right. So the script also mentions music and podcasts.
Yeah.
It suggests we look up lyrics, even sing along, choose podcast topics that we're into. Why are those so effective?
I think it's about being engaged on multiple levels, right? So with music, you're not just hearing the language, you're singing along, which helps with pronunciation and even the muscle memory in your mouth and throat.
Oh, wow.
And then looking up the lyrics, that adds the reading component.
Gotcha.
So you're reinforcing vocabulary even more. And then choosing podcasts, picking things that you're already interested in.
Great.
That's key for staying motivated.
I see.
If you're enjoying it, you're going to pay attention. You're going to absorb the language naturally.
Yeah, for sure. So next up, goal setting.
Okay.
The script talks about understanding your why.
Right.
Why are you learning English in the first place?
Yeah.
Travel, work,
Yeah.
connecting with people. Why does that matter so much?
Because it taps into your intrinsic motivation. It's like your internal drive, right?
I see. If you have a good reason for doing something, it gives you direction. It pushes you when things get tough.
Yeah.
Because learning a language, it's not always easy.
Right.
There will be moments when you're like, why am I doing this?
Totally.
But if you have that strong why, it keeps you focused.
Like your anchor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Your anchor. Like, for example, if your why is to travel and talk to locals, you're naturally going to focus on the vocabulary and phrases that you need for that.
That makes sense. So the script also mentions this SMART goal framework.
Yeah.
Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Right.
Can you give us a real-world example of a SMART goal for English learning?
Sure. So instead of saying something general like, I want to get better at English, which is a fine goal, but it's not very specific.
Right.
A SMART goal would be something like, I'm going to learn 15 new English phrases for ordering food at a restaurant, and I'm going to use them in at least 3 conversations with a language partner in the next 2 weeks.
So you see how that's specific, right?
Yeah.
You know exactly what you're going to learn.
The phrases.
The phrases, yeah. It's measurable. 15 phrases, 3 conversations. It's achievable. You can do that with some focused effort.
Yeah,
It's relevant, if you're going to travel. Ordering food is a pretty common situation.
absolutely. Yeah.
And it's time-bound. You've given yourself 2 weeks.
Nice. Okay, so the script also talks about keeping track of your progress,
Yeah.
like in a journal or digitally.
Right.
Why is that helpful?
I think it's because it gives you this tangible record of what you've done.
Hmm.
Sometimes language learning can feel like you're not getting anywhere. It's
Yeah.
easy to get discouraged. But if you look back and you see like all the new words you've learned, the topics you've covered, even the mistakes you've corrected, that can be really motivating.
Right. It shows you how far you've come.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about speaking, actually using the language.
Right.
The script suggests finding language partners. Mm-hmm.
On platforms like Tandem or HelloTalk.
Okay.
What's so great about that?
Yeah, what is it?
Well, it's about having these real-time conversations.
Oh, okay.
You're connecting with native speakers or even other learners, and you're exchanging languages.
Hmm.
It's less formal than a classroom. You can relax, practice speaking, ask questions,
Yeah, yeah.
and you get feedback
Mhm.
on your pronunciation, your grammar, but it's all in this natural conversational setting.
I see. So you're actually using the language to talk to people.
Exactly. You're not
Mhm.
just studying it, you're living it.
Right. It's a real world application.
Yeah, yeah. The script also suggests joining online language groups,
Okay.
places like Meetup or Facebook.
Mm.
What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, it seems like it'd be a good way to find people who are in the same boat as you, right?
Exactly. It taps into that social, supportive aspect of learning.
Right, right.
You're part of a community.
Yeah.
You get encouragement. You share resources. You talk about your challenges.
Mhm. And you realize you're not alone in this.
Yeah, that's huge.
It is. And, it can also be a bit of healthy competition,
Oh, yeah,
which can push you to do better.
for sure. So then there's this thing called the shadowing technique,
Right.
repeating what native speakers say.
Mm,
Sounds pretty intense.
that is. But it's super effective.
So what are the benefits for pronunciation and fluency?
Well, you're trying to mimic the speaker's rhythm, their intonation, how they pronounce things,
Okay.
all at the same time.
Wow.
So you're training your mouth and your ear to recognize and reproduce those subtle sounds and patterns.
Interesting.
It helps you internalize the natural flow of English.
Right, so you don't sound like a robot.
Exactly. You want to sound natural.
Right, right. Okay, let's talk about building vocabulary.
Okay.
Flashcards, spaced repetition.
Mhm.
The script mentions apps like Anki and Quizlet.
Right.
What's so special about this spaced repetition thing?
Well, it's about how our memory works. You review information just as you're about to forget it.
Ah.
So at first, you see a new word a lot.
Yeah,
But then as you get more familiar with it, the time between reviews gets longer.
I see, I see.
This helps you remember things in the long term,
Makes sense.
much better than just cramming. And those apps like Anki and Quizlet, they make it easy to do this.
Right, they automate the process.
Exactly. Yeah. The script also talks about learning new words in context, like
Mhm.
in phrases and sentences.
Right, instead of just memorizing a single word.
Exactly. Because words don't exist in isolation.
Yeah.
They're part of a larger whole.
Uh-huh.
So knowing how a word works in a sentence, its grammar, what other words it goes with, all of that comes from seeing it in context.
So it's more than just knowing the definition.
Exactly. It's about understanding how to use it.
Gotcha, gotcha. Another tip is to associate new words with images, synonyms, antonyms.
Yeah.
How does that help?
I think it's about creating connections in your brain. Like linking a word to a picture can make it more memorable.
Right.
Connecting it to words you already know, like synonyms or antonyms,
Right.
that builds a network of understanding.
So the more connections, the easier it is to remember.
Exactly.
Cool. All right, let's talk about listening.
Okay.
The script mentions active listening.
Right.
So focusing on mere ideas, specific details,
Yeah.
and then trying to summarize.
Yeah.
How is that different from just, passively hearing English?
Active listening is more engaged. It's intentional.
Okay.
You're not just letting the sounds wash over you.
Right.
You're actively trying to understand
Uh-huh.
by focusing on the key points and then summarizing. You're forcing your brain to process what you've heard.
So it helps you remember it better.
Yeah, and it also trains you to identify what's really important.
Interesting. So then it mentions dictation exercises,
Yeah.
writing down audio clips word for word.
Right.
That sounds tough.
It is. but it's a fantastic way to improve your listening skills. You have to be really focused to catch every word.
Yeah.
It also helps with spelling, grammar, even pronunciation.
Wow, it's a full workout.
It is. It's like going to the gym for your English.
And then there's TED Talks.
Yeah, those are great.
What makes them so good for English learners?
Well, first of all, they cover so many different topics, so
Yeah.
there's something for everyone.
Uh-huh.
The speakers are usually really clear and engaging,
Yeah.
and a lot of them have subtitles.
Oh, that's helpful.
It is. It helps you follow along, understand everything, plus you get exposed to more formal language, which can be useful.
Right, right. Okay, so integrating reading and writing into your learning.
Okay.
The script talks about reading regularly in areas that interest you.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that so important?
Reading exposes you to so much vocabulary and grammar, but in a natural way.
Okay.
You see how sentences are built, how words are used correctly,
Huh.
and you can go at your own pace. And if you're reading things you're interested in, it's more enjoyable.
Right, right. You're more likely to stick with it.
Exactly. The script also talks about graded readers.
Okay.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, what are those?
They're books that have been written specifically for language learners
Oh, okay.
at different levels. So beginner, intermediate, advanced.
Mm-hmm.
The vocabulary and grammar are controlled, so it matches your level.
That makes sense.
So you can read longer stories without getting overwhelmed.
Right, right. And finally, there's keeping an English journal.
Yeah.
Why is that so beneficial?
Writing forces you to actively use the language.
Okay.
You have to think about the grammar, the vocabulary.
Uh,
It's not passive. You're creating something.
right, right.
Even if you're just writing a few sentences each day, it helps solidify what you've learned.
And it gives you a record of your progress.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's move on to technology.
Okay.
Apps, websites, all that good stuff.
Right.
The script mentions Duolingo, Babbel, Memrise.
Yeah.
What are the strengths of these kinds of tools?
They're often gamified, so they're engaging.
Right.
They break down the learning process into smaller chunks,
Okay.
and they give you instant feedback, which can be really motivating.
I see, I see.
So Duolingo and Babbel are known for their structured lessons.
Uh-huh.
Memrise focuses more on vocabulary, using spaced repetition and videos.
Cool.
Then there's Busuu, which has social learning features.
Okay.
You can connect with native speakers, get feedback.
What's the value of that kind of interaction?
Well, it adds authenticity.
Okay.
You're getting real-world input on your language skills.
Right.
And it creates a sense of community, which can be really encouraging.
Yeah, yeah. And then there are all these other tools.
Right.
Lyrics training, Cambly, Radio Garden, Bilingua, Preply, English Class 101.
So many options.
There really is something for everyone.
Absolutely. And I think that's the point. Explore these options, find what works for you.
Exactly. Find the tools that fit your style and your goals.
Yeah.
Okay, so grammar.
The foundation.
Yeah. Why is it so important?
Grammar is the structure of the language.
Right.
It's how words fit together to create meaning.
Uh,
Without it, you'll struggle to form sentences that make sense.
right. Even if you know a lot of words.
Exactly. Grammar is what holds it all together.
So how do we get better at grammar?
Practice, practice, practice.
Okay.
Use online resources, grammar books.
Uh-huh.
There are also tools like Grammarly that can help you find and fix mistakes.
Right. So you're learning from your errors.
Exactly.
And the script also suggests online courses.
Yeah.
Platforms like Coursera and Udemy.
Right.
What are the benefits of that kind of structured learning?
Well, online courses provide a more comprehensive approach.
Okay.
They typically have a set curriculum, so you're learning things in a logical order.
Uh-huh.
You get different materials like videos, readings, quizzes.
Right.
And sometimes you can even interact with instructors and other students.
So it's more guided.
It is. It can be really helpful for people who prefer that kind of structure.
Okay. So
Yeah.
staying motivated.
Yeah, that's
The
good.
script talks about creating a study schedule,
Right.
having dedicated practice times.
Yeah.
Why is that so important?
Because consistency is key.
Okay.
Even if you just practice for a little bit each day, it's better than doing it randomly.
Right.
Regular practice helps you remember what you've learned,
Uh-huh.
and it prevents you from forgetting.
Okay.
It's about building good habits.
Makes sense. So then there's the idea of joining language challenges
Yeah, those can be fun.
on social media.
Right.
What's the benefit there?
I think it's about accountability.
Okay.
When you're part of a group, you're more likely to stick to your goals.
Yeah, because everyone's doing it together.
Exactly. And you can share your progress, which can be really motivating.
Right, right. And the script also says to celebrate those small wins.
Absolutely.
Why is that important?
Because language learning is a journey.
Yeah.
It takes time, and it's easy to get discouraged.
Right.
So celebrating those small victories, it helps you stay positive.
It reminds you that you are making progress.
Exactly.
So connecting with other learners, online and offline,
Right.
forums, social media groups,
Mhm.
why is that so valuable?
I think it creates this amazing support system.
Okay.
You can ask questions, get different perspectives, share resources, learn from others' experiences. It makes the whole process less intimidating.
Right. You're not alone.
Exactly. And you can even connect with native speakers.
Oh, that's awesome.
It is. It gives you exposure to real-world language use.
Yeah. Yeah. So patience and persistence.
Two of the most important things.
Absolutely. Why are they so crucial?
Language learning isn't always easy.
Right.
There will be times when you feel stuck.
Yeah.
You'll make mistakes.
Uh-huh.
But it's important to view those mistakes as opportunities to learn.
Not as failures.
Right. And patience is key because fluency takes time.
It doesn't happen overnight.
No, it doesn't. And persistence, that willingness to keep going, that's what will get you there.
It's about not giving up.
Exactly.
And the script circles back to some key points.
Yeah.
Spaced repetition, traveling to English-speaking countries, watching movies without subtitles,
Oh.
like tying everything together.
It is. It's about reinforcing those core strategies and showing how they can help you as you progress.
So travel is an amazing way to immerse yourself.
Absolutely.
Gradually reducing your reliance on subtitles is a natural step.
Yeah.
And spaced repetition is crucial for vocabulary.
Right.
It all connects.
It does. And then there's the suggestion of keeping a vocabulary notebook and an English diary.
Oh, yeah.
Practical ways to engage with the language every day.
Even starting with simple sentences.
Exactly. It's about building those habits.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the single most important takeaway?
I'd say it's this. There's no magic bullet.
Okay.
It's about finding the right combination of strategies for you and then consistently applying them.
So it's a personalized approach.
It is. And it's about being flexible,
Okay.
experimenting, figuring out what works best for you.
And enjoying the process.
Absolutely. Learning a language should be fun.
I love that. So for our listener out there, think about this. What strategies will you try first?
Yeah?
And how can you make them a part of your daily life?
Good questions.
Remember, learning a language is a journey. It's about exploring and constantly improving.
And it's an amazing journey.
It really is.